years ago. And her husband had retired. He had a failing heart. And he was on digitalis. And she said, what digitalis does, see, you've all heard of, all right, if you've seen in movies, sometimes they put that under the tongue. What am I thinking of? Which one am I thinking of? Nitroglycerin, glyceryl trinitrate, or nitroglycerin. That is a blood vessel dilator. That's what that does. This stuff right here, though, it increases. The story on this, way back in medieval England, when they had witch doctors, there was a community there where all the old people in one area, they had what they called in those days, that's back in the 50s, dropsy. That's where the people were real weak. They kind of moped around. You know, they didn't feel good. They had shortness of breath and all this kind of stuff. Well, over in a neighboring area, there was a witch doctor that would fix a brew. He'd fix a brew and he'd give them his soup. And these old people, you know, were kind of spry. They kind of move around. They kind of felt good. Well, what it was, this is based on a true story. The old doctor was fixing a soup made out of the foxglove plant. The foxglove plant, one of the ingredients in that plant is digoxin, which digitalis comes from. So people with heart failure, old people, this digitalis, what it does, it causes an increase in strength of contraction of the heart. Therefore, an increased contraction, forcing of blood, and more blood getting to the tissues. The old folks were feeling better. And then from the neighboring place, they said, all right, why are they feeling so good? We got so many people over here that are sick all the time, and they seem to feel better. What is it? This is what digitalis comes from, the foxglove plant, it's called. And it causes an increase, like I have. Digitalis, now, causes a greater influx of calcium. This is what the calcium channel blocker does. Cortisone, which would call blood pressure medication. What the calcium channel blocker does, it inhibits the influx of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum in the muscle and slows down the heart rate, slows down, reduces blood pressure. Digitalis is toxin. This woman told me that her husband, now I don't know if I have this, yeah, she said he suffers from headaches a lot. He has a lot of headaches as a result of taking digitalis. And that again has been many, many years ago. When I taught the course, and she was in that class, we had the course in 120 over there. Remember that lecture room well, it's right, in fact, you can nearly, it's right around, it's the big lecture room, right at the end of the hall and right there. And I remember the woman sat on the front row. Again, she was an older woman at that time. And she kept telling about her husband with that problem. But anyway, everybody, now there's nitro. A blood vessel dilator, that's nitroglycerin. And as in the case of angina pectoris, that's some doctors say angina, some people say angina. You know, so I always just say angina. Some will say angina. You know, you can look it up. I don't, whatever. You know what it is. All right, but that's chest pain. All right, now right here, other factors such as temperature, emotion, sex, and age of the individual. All of these will have bearings on heart rate. All of these things will. Also, blood pressure medications. Okay. Now, I want to mention this to you right here. Okay, in the blood pressure medication, this is a pretty common one, and it's called an ACE inhibitor. All right, now let me just explain to you. Let me just explain something to you because Shasta likes to do those practice exams. There's a stuff produced by the kidneys. There's a stuff produced by the kidneys called renin. R-E-N-I-N. It's produced by the kidney. K-I-D-N-E-Y. Kidney. All right, there's a stuff produced by the liver. You know the liver? The liver. There's a stuff produced, there's a protein stuff produced by the liver called angiotensin. Angiotensinogen. A-N-G-I-O-T-E-N. Angiotensin. T-N-S-I-N-O-G-G-E-N. Angiotensinogen. That's produced by the liver. Now, renin, normally, here's what renin does. Renin comes in, here's renin, and it converts this stuff to angiotensin 1, A-N-G-I-O-T-E-N-S-I-N, angiotensin 1. All right, now, okay, now. All right, now Jamie, angiotensin 1 is a mild vasoconstrictor. Now, blood vessels constrict, this is going to work to elevate blood pressure, but it's just a mild vasoconstrictor. Now, here's where the kicker comes in. Now look, Angiotensin 1 going by way of the blood to the lungs. There's an enzyme. There's an enzyme in the lungs. I don't have the name of it. I've never known the name of it. It just says angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin converting enzyme. There's an enzyme in the lungs, the angiotensin converting enzyme converts angiotensin 1. Now I'll just put an enzyme here. E-N-Z-Y-M-E. An enzyme in the lungs that converts angiotensin 1 to A-N-G-I-O-T-E-N-S-I-N, angiotensin 2. Now Shasta, here's where the problem comes in. Here's where the problem comes in with this guy right here. Angiotensin 2 does two things. One, angiotensin 2 is a powerful vasoconstrictor. It's a powerful vasoconstrictor. Number two, angiotensin 2 causes the adrenal cortex to release increased amounts of this hormone, aldosterone. Now aldosterone, now here's where it goes. These things right here, both of these, that of course is going to work to increase blood pressure. Now this, and I'll show you how this does it. Aldosterone causes Na, sodium reabsorption. That means from the kidney tubules into the blood. You follow me? It causes sodium reabsorption into the blood. Follow me? Note you retain sodium in blood. If you retain sodium in blood, now look, here's the blood vessel. Aldosterone causes, okay, so what's happening to the osmotic concentration of the blood? Y'all remember this vaguely? If sodium is retained, Cl comes in because unlike charges attract. Cl comes in. Now, the osmotic concentration is increasing, water moves in. As water moves in, what does blood pressure do now? Blood pressure goes up. Blood pressure goes up. All right, blood pressure goes up. Follow me? All right, now, the ACE inhibitor, all right, here's what this means. ACE inhibitor. ACE. Now, that stands for angiotensin conversion enzyme inhibitor. You follow that? That stands for angiotensin conversion enzyme, or converting, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. In other words, Clint, what this does, now listen, what the ACE inhibitor does, it blocks right here. It blocks that enzyme in the lungs so that angiotensin 1 isn't converted to angiotensin 2. Therefore, it shuts down on aldosterone release and shuts down on constriction of blood vessels. So the ACE inhibitor blood pressure. How many of you have heard of that before? ACE. I know you might not have heard all this stuff, but how many of you've heard of ACE inhibitor? You've heard of an ACE inhibitor. All right, now Leachman. I was on blood pressure. It's called. Okay, now let me show you. Okay, now look at this. All right, everybody, now follow this. Now I'm going to give you some ACE inhibitor blood pressure medications. You don't have this on your deal. Now look down here at the bottom. All right, you see? Look right here. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. Blocks the formation of angiotensin 2. See what I had on the board over there? This promotes, promotes vasodilation and decreases liberation of aldosterone, which I diagram for you. All right, now here's some of them. The generic term for these things, they all end in pril, P-R-I-L. Captopril. Capitan would be the brand name. Enalapril, or Vasotec is another. Benzopril, Lotensin. Now, okay, now let me show you a wiggle on this. Now look at this one. One that I was on, okay, now listen to this. Okay, listen to this. One I was on, and he changed this, and I'll tell you in a few minutes. One I was on, although my blood pressure stays pretty good now.